Hey everyone, my name is Asia Branch. I'm your host of Speak On It, and this episode is titled Over It. Uh, I don't know if a lot of you watched some of my recent videos, the one that I posted. I want to say it was Thursday. I came out of work on Thursday, and a huge problem that I was having when I came out of work is that there was a protest. I didn't know what it was at first. I was kind of frustrated because I had just gotten off of work. It was a bad day. The boss was kind of ripping into everybody. And the thing was, not knowing what it was, all I knew was that it was obstructing traffic. They were all in the streets. I saw the cops out there with the barricades for them. So I don't even know if they had a permit or anything. When I finally found out what it was, I had gotten past the bulk of the protest, and on the other side were people protesting the protest. I don't want to say they were Proud Boys. I can't really remember the gentlemen's names. They were talking a lot about how, Trump is their president, yada, and so forth. They were conservative. But they were covering their faces. They were wearing masks and holding the American flag and things like that. And I asked them, what are they protesting? They said, "Oh, they're trying to protest against ICE and the detention centers." And as I was talking with them, just having a regular conversation, trying to figure out what exactly this protest was, there were these two women. And I tried to catch them on my phone, actually, because I tried to do to them what they did to me. While I was having this conversation with these two gentlemen, they pulled their phones out, and I don't know if they were snapping pictures of me or if they were getting video of me, but they were talking smack while they pulled their phones out. And I just got so frustrated and so angry. And you could hear how frustrated and angry I was in that video, because I was cursing a lot, and I allowed them to bring me out of my character, because they were pushing buttons. How dare you talk smack without knowing me? How dare you pull your phone out and start snapping pictures or videos without my permission in the first place? All because I was having conversation with people who, granted, they had their faces covered, but they were being more civil towards me than the people who were in the protest. Simply because as I was walking past it, I was saying, good gosh, you guys are keeping me from catching my bus. Like, why couldn't you do this during the hours? And as I was saying that, someone in the crowd said, well, because we don't give up fornication under consent of the king. And for those of you who don't know what that means, FUCK, they were saying that to me because I was frustrated that I couldn't catch my bus because they had obstructed the whole street. I mean, they stopped traffic. There were no buses coming through. And they were being very, very disrespectful towards me. And I was just so over it. On top of all of that, I had already had a bad day. So how dare them? Now, I don't mean to bring this up to talk about my bad day at work. This episode is specifically about how I am over it all, at least from the people on the left. I mean, you don't care about anyone else, anything else. You just care about what you want and your feelings. Well, here's the deal. America doesn't give a crap about your feelings. We really, really don't. Protesting and all of that, to me, is a moot point, because you're not getting anything done. You're just making a bunch of noise, and you're keeping people from being able to get home. You're disrupting businesses that are in the near area. And here's the thing, right? There were so many people trying to get past that protest. The very people like Black liberals who would agree with them were angry with them because they're obstructing the street. They're keeping people from getting home. This is what the left are doing to everyone across the country. Because of your feelings, you're keeping people from going on with their lives, going on with their day, simply because you want to make noise. And I've noticed a lot of the times that I'm coming out of work at 5 o'clock, it's not always a protest, but there's always people outside with microphones and big speakers and signs that say honk if you want to impeach Trump, honk if you want to stop police brutality. I mean, they're just always out there. And I find myself just constantly getting irritated. I'm over it all. And I think a lot of people in America are too. They constantly do this. The people on the left constantly do this. You're not getting anything done. You're spewing a bunch of lies, and we're over it. We are over it. No one wants that anymore. We just don't. We're tired of it. You want to protest because your feelings are hurt. I'm hearing that Elizabeth Warren now wants to put a tax on free speech. The left are losing their minds. They're losing their minds, and they're trying to get people who are regular, not even people who are political, People who don't give a crap about politics, who are just going about their day. They're being drawn into it. We're being sucked into it. You know, before I got really into politics, I didn't really care. I didn't care about politics. I just wanted to go my day in, my day out, get home, do certain things for myself. And I can't even do that because people on the left are just being over the top dramatic. You know, I have to I have to separate my opinion from my personal page on Facebook because it gets me in trouble at work because people are too offended. They're too emotional. They don't know if they're safe at my job because of my opinion. So I had to start putting it someplace else. I mean, these are the things that people like me have to do just to speak their minds. Just to speak their minds. You know, just to get home from work, I have to go through protests. Just to stand at the bus stop, you know, peacefully, I have to deal with people who are constantly shouting and speaking through big speakers with microphones and blowhorns. And I have to speak louder in my office because people are outside protesting with the microphones and and you know, the different news networks are outside. I'm over it all. And I think a lot of Americans are too. Again, on my Facebook, I posted those videos last week. They're on not last week, this Thursday, passing Thursday. And someone said to me, you know, it sounds ghetto because I'm using a lot of bad language. I was using a lot of bad language. I don't think necessarily that makes me ghetto. I don't think that makes anybody ghetto using bad language. Like cursing doesn't make you ghetto. Ghetto is a mentality. So you have to remember that, people. Being ghetto is a mentality. It's not a type of speech. Because again, when you're talking to people, you have to be colloquial. You have to speak to where they're at sometimes. That doesn't necessarily make you ghetto. So cussing out those girls via Facebook Live, that didn't make me ghetto. I was dishing out to them what they dish out to everybody else who disagrees with them. Because I disagree with you. Being a Black woman who thinks for herself goes against everything that they are. And that's why they pulled their phones out. You know, you see these protesters outside my office because I'm next door to the federal building. And so they're making all of this noise and they're doing all of these things because they're trying to draw attention from the federal building. Well, you know what? They're doing their jobs and you're making it harder for them to do their jobs because you just are making noise and you're disrupting the peace. We're over that. We're over it. Nobody wants to deal with that anymore. You know, and then when you have people in Congress and in the Senate kind of dragging out different issues and things like that, that is encouraging the worst of their base. It's encouraging them. Every time they come up with some BS about Donald Trump or Mike Pence, because I just learned that they're trying to figure out a way to get to Pence too, because if you impeach Donald Trump, Pence will be your president. So now they're trying to figure out how to come at him too. When they do stuff like that, they incentivize their base, their radical base, to do stuff like protests outside the federal building, pull their phones out. What did Maxine Waters say? Make them uncomfortable. Now, I don't even know if these young ladies snapped a picture or a video of me. And considering they saw me come out of my place of business, I don't know what's next. You know, my face could be all over their Facebook, all over their YouTube, and they could be trying to make my life harder. But this is what regular Americans have to deal with. Just from disagreeing with someone, I have to worry if my job is on the line. Just because somebody's feelings were hurt by something I posted, my job is on the line. This is what Americans are over. I'm over it. And I know I'm not the only one. Someone on my Facebook commented that she was supporting me from KY and that she's also sick of it. And that's why she didn't mind the way I was speaking in my video, because she agrees with me. They dish out the same disrespect. And understand something, disrespect can go both ways. As long as I don't put my hands on you, then this is fair game. I'm going to come at you the same way you came at me because you don't know me. The same way I don't know you. But just your behavior, just your actions towards me showed me who you were. And so you don't deserve my respect. I'm going to talk to you the same way you talk to me because I'm over it. I'm not going to allow myself to be disrespected because they don't know who I am but think that they can disrespect me. I had the same issue at work. A colleague of mine, she was Muslim. And I thought she was a lovely woman. I mean, I disagree with her religion, but I thought she was a lovely woman. And then I find out that she tried to have me fired from work simply because, I don't know what she thinks. All I know is she hates all Muslims and I don't feel safe coming into this office. That's what she said to my supervisor. That's what she said. She's like, well, if something isn't done to her, then I'm just going to have to leave. Granted, she had a position higher than mine. Now, let me give you guys the full story. I was up for a promotion. I got it. But I should have received my promotion months ago. I should have, because I was working hard. I was doing everything I can, putting my best foot forward. I may disagree with the religion, but I can work with you, because the bottom line here is we need to work together as a team so we can help the community of Newark. So my opinion of your religion is irrelevant. And that's the attitude that I brought when I walked into that office. I didn't bring up about how I dislike her religion. But you know what she did? On my day off, because again, I worked part-time then. On my day off, she was scrolling through my Facebook. Instead of doing her job, she was scrolling through my Facebook account. Just scrolling and scrolling. And she was seeing my posts about Ilhan Omar. And she just was so offended that I was criticizing one of the first Muslim women in Congress, that she internalized my posts and made it seem like that I was talking about all Muslims when I was not. Just Ilhan, because I believe Ilhan Omar to be a radical jihad who's clever, because now she's trying to do it diplomatically as opposed to force. But that's what I was saying. And she just chose to internalize it and say Asia hates all Muslims. She said all of that in the office when we have clients who are Muslim. She said all that to my colleagues, but before she was there, I had put out, my best self amongst my colleagues. Now my coworkers are looking at me differently because of her comments. She went to my supervisor with my Facebook. And before you knew it, when I went back to work, my supervisor pulls me into the office, around 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 1:30. And for an hour and a half, I was lectured about my opinion. Folks. I wasn't lectured about how, Asia, you got to separate your Facebook. You have to make your Facebook private because colleagues are seeing that. And if colleagues can see it, then clients can see, it wasn't anything practical or logical. It was, no, Asia, I just have to pull you into this because I have to figure out where you were at, because I can't go to bat for you if I think that you hate people. Like, what? I've been working here for almost a year now. You know who I am. You know I don't hate anybody. I just dislike this particular congresswoman. I don't hate anyone. Why am I even in here? Oh, well, one of your colleagues reported your Facebook to me, and I had to bring you in here because she didn't feel safe enough to come into the office anymore, and we need her here. That's a load of crap. It's stuff like that people in America are over. Conservatives are over having to deal with that. I'm getting pulled into my supervisor's office for this because someone was offended by a Facebook post that she clearly didn't read all the way because she chose to internalize it. My job might be on the line because these two girls at the protest hated the fact that I was having conversations with people who disagreed with the protest. Stuff like that. People are over it. We're over it. And we're tired of people in Congress and in positions of power and high powers of influence, because that also includes entertainment and education, people who have that kind of status, encouraging and incentivizing that kind of reaction and revenge type, retribution type actions towards people who are conservative. And you don't even have to be conservative. All you have to do is just disagree. You can still be a liberal, you can still be Democrat, but if you're a liberal Democrat who says, I don't think I agree with Maxine Waters, targeting conservatives, I don't think I agree with that. You can be a liberal Democrat who says that, boom, you're a target for the left. If you're someone who, is like me and you have to work a regular job, do your day in, day out job, while you're trying to build a persona as far as, public speaking and doing shows and stuff like that, you kind of need your job. I know I need my job. I'm not at a particular caliber or level yet where I don't need the job. I need my job. Until this has become sustainable for my lifestyle, until that becomes a thing, I have to utilize, the pay that I'm receiving from my job. I have to secure that. But now that's being threatened by people who just disagree with me. But why is my livelihood coming under attack? Simply because I disagree. That's un-American. But you can't say that to people. Let me tell you another thing. I work in an office that is predominantly liberal. They talk smack about Donald Trump all the time. They talk smack about conservatives all the time. But I don't say anything. I don't report anybody to anything. I don't go to my supervisor and say, hey, this person is saying stuff about conservatives and I'm conservative and I don't feel safe. No, I just know how to not allow that to offend me. That's what you think. You're entitled to your opinion. But you separate conservatives and myself. That's what they do in my job because they love me. My coworkers, they love me. They do. They disagree with me. Some don't really know that I'm conservative. And because of that, they just talk a whole bunch of smack about conservatives and Donald Trump and things of that nature. They don't like things like Blaze TV or PureFlix because PureFlix is trying to be more on a family-friendly type entertainment content. But when I start having conversations about, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, having faith in God and logic, when you say stuff like that, they start to put two and two together. Oh my gosh, I think she's conservative. And when I say stuff like that, oh man, Asia, you're all kinds of wrong. You're being ignorant. You're naive. Okay, we're done having this conversation. I'm going to go back to work. I don't go to my supervisor. I don't go and tell about how my feelings are hurt because they're talking smack about a president that I support. I don't go and report to my supervisor about how, they're, instead of doing their jobs, they're watching, Kamala Harris speeches. I don't do any of that. I just do my job. And then when I'm done, I leave that office, I come home and I do my episodes. I do my show. I make my posts. I separate my opinion from my job. I'm able to do that. Why can't they? Right? That double standard is what we're over. It's okay for them to do it, but when I do it, it's a problem. And that's why I spoke the way that I spoke on my video on Thursday, because now I'm over the double standard. I'm over it. So if you come at me sideways because of my conservatism, I'm going to come at you sideways because of your ignorance. That's how it's going to go from now on. And it's going to be the same thing at work. I'll probably be more respectful because I'm in a place of business, and that kind of language that I had in that video is not appropriate for that setting. But I do intend to stand my ground and tell you how disrespectful you're being towards me because you disagree with me. You don't have to agree with me, but I do expect you to respect me. I have shown you respect. I have worked hard with you. We worked together before to help clients. Why can't you put aside the differences so we can get the job done for these clients? You can't do that, can you? No, you can't, because your feelings are hurt. Well, I've been told sometimes you got to work with people you don't like. And the thing is, I didn't even realize that it was that woman who reported me. The woman that I'm telling you guys about now at my job, my colleague, my coworker, the woman who I thought was a lovely woman. I didn't find out till months later after the fact that I was pulled into the office that it was her who reported me to my supervisor and what she said exactly to my supervisor. I didn't even know that it was her that said it. And when I found out, well, I wasn't going to be angry towards her because months did go by, but still, I was hurt because we had developed a good working relationship. How could she think that I hated her? How could you try to get me fired? How could she? All because she was in her feelings. How about, okay, I may not like this little girl because she thinks, because I think she hates Muslims, but she's hardworking. She gets the job done. She makes all the runs that she's supposed to make. So we're just going to work together and that's going to be that. Why couldn't she just do that? Why did she have to report me? The young women who were talking smack at that protest on Thursday, instead of pulling out their phones and talking smack because I was, having a conversation, they could have come up to me and say, hey, can I ask you, why are you talking to them and why you're not on our side? Why you're not here? Because I would have engaged with them. I would have had a conversation with them, and we might have actually reached a level of understanding. We might have reached a place of, let's agree to disagree. But I wouldn't have been so heated in that video had we had a conversation. I wouldn't have felt the need to pull the phone out a second time to get the girls on camera. had she invited me over to have a conversation. But that's not what she did. And that's the problem with the people on the left. Instead of doing what's rational, what's logical, you do what's irrational and emotional. And it brings out the worst in us conservatives sometimes. I mean, I don't really like cussing people out, and I don't like showing that side of myself. But yeah, no, sometimes people mistake your kindness as a weakness, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Understand something. You come at me sideways because of how I think, we're going to have a problem. And that's how conservatives need to start behaving. I'm not saying that you need to go out there and you need to start riots or fight people or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying find a more peaceful way to fight back. And I know that sounds kind of sort of like an oxymoron because I use peace and fight in the same sentence, but understand what I'm saying. Don't allow yourself to be pushed over by the people on the left anymore. And we see that a lot. It's like conservatives today are following the same patterns that conservatives of yesteryear used to do. Instead of fighting back in a smart, logical way, like protecting culture, like education and entertainment. No, they're so focused on winning elections and apologizing for who they are that they're not fighting back. And conservatives are falling into the same habit when people are swarming around you because you're a conservative. You don't want to press charges for what? Because you want to be the bigger person. Nah, man, no. No, because if you throw ice water at me the way they did Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens, no, I am pressing charges. I'm not playing those games anymore. I'm done playing those games. You try to get me fired for my opinion, I'm going to sing like a canary when it's time to talk about your lack of work ethic. How you're not doing your job because you're so busy scrolling on my Facebook account. It's time for us to start doing stuff like that. If they're going to start hurting your way of life, hurting, what your job, your day in and day out job, if they're starting to hurt and attack your livelihood, press charges, fight back, do what you got to do. Because that's what I'm going to start doing. Why? Again, because I am over it. That's all the time I have for you guys. I'm going to do more of these specifically here on YouTube because I have to get away from my Facebook account. But for more information on new episodes, you can check out my business page on Facebook. It's called Mind Out, Mind Up. And you can check out the latest commercials for the new op-eds that I released. There's one that'll be released pretty soon. But check out the latest one, God Save the Queen. That is about culture and how we need to save it. That is all the time. You guys have a good one.